Okay, so we are going to start with our demos. Again, I've said this a couple times, but we're not expecting you to have finished issue 13. This is like a monster of an issue. So we're just excited to see whatever progress y'all have had so far. So who is going to start us off with showing us what y'all have gotten done with designs this week?
I can start.
Awesome. All right, go for it.
So this is our like Figma kind of like layout of what we thought we might make the app look like. We'll have like the desktop and the mobile homepage where you can create a list or join a list. This was our kind of idea for our desktop view for the list page, where each like category or urgency has a little like tile which users can easily see what items are under what urgency, and then same with the mobile view, having them categorized. This is like the list group component, or I think we called it sublist in the actual project. Then this would be the mobile ad screen, and this would be the desktop ad screen.
It's so beautiful. I don't know. Everyone in the chat is very impressed with the design. It looks gorgeous.
Yeah, that looks really good.
Yeah, really nice job with this design, and also just it looks like a really well organized Figma file. So like I think y'all are hopefully this will help set you up for the additional work that needs to be done this week. Beautiful. What was the process like for creating this file? Did you all kind of like mob work on it, or did you kind of divvy it up and then check each other and like kind of get on the same page? Like what was that like?
So we decided to split the groups. One, me and Caitlin did like the design, and then Nuria and Mira did the functionality that we needed to implement still. So I mean, for me at least, I just went on like Dribble and just looked up inspiration and just kind of went to town with everything. I don't know.
Yeah, that's awesome. How did it feel like this type of work? It's very different than the work that you've been doing thus far on this project. Like, how did it compare? Was there anything that was particularly challenging about design work compared to the coding that you've been doing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not entirely used to Figma or like designing in general. So it was actually kind of fun, which was nice. I could totally see myself like kind of going deeper in it, but yeah, I enjoyed it. Um,
Yeah, cool.
Figma
Yeah,
is
Figma.
oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I
No,
think
go
you were
ahead.
about to say the same thing I was going to say. Figma is a very commonly used like tool for a lot of people, like product people. So like it's definitely something you should definitely learn and understand.
mhm.
And yeah, it looks like you did. Everything looks great. This looks very similar to projects that I've seen like mocked out in Figma. So this looks really good. Y'all did a great job.
Thank
And
you.
if I may add that it also saves a lot of time for the developers because like when you just start styling things without having a certain plan, you make a change, you go back, you see how it looks, and then you make another change, so it kind of gets spread out. When you have a design, you kind of follow it already and you just code it out. So it makes it like it is initial work to create this Figma file, but in the end it will end up saving you time on actual development. So very happy to see that.
Mhm.
100%.
Thank you. But we kind of had a meeting right after our last Saturdays, we agreed on like styles, on color templates and everything.
Yeah, that's also a good point. That's an important step also, is just kind of like getting aligned on that. Like you can spend so much time looking at fonts or like colors and trying to decide which one to do. And if you're just if you don't decide up front and you just kind of adjust as you go, like you'll spend forever just tweaking it.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
was our kind of mood board or like idea board that we came up with.
Very cool. Yeah, it's cool to see the process of like what you were kind of thinking and then what came out of that.
Mhm.
Nice. Yeah, Figma is it's a really powerful tool, but it is I found at least there's a little bit of a learning curve figuring out where exactly like I feel like I should be able to do this thing. Where do I go to do, you know, this to do this thing? But it looks like y'all did a really good job of learning a new tool, figuring out a new kind of skill set to apply to this project. So yeah, really well done. Did anyone else have any questions or comments before we move on to the other pair? Great, beautiful work this week. And we'll pass it over to Nuria and Mira, who's going to start us off.
Mira, do you wanna start or should I?
You start. I don't have the starter files. I don't know, for some reason Git pull is not working. It's not pulling the.
Okay, I start. Can you see my screen? Okay, so let me close. Here is, let me move it bar. Here is our shopping list. We moved our navigation icons and parts to the top. That were based on our design. Here's the home button, list button, and add item button. We still have to work on a welcome page, but the main issue we had with our list, because based on our design, we want to sort our list based on urgency, soon, kind of soon, or purchased. We did it last night. 3 of us jumping in a call, trying to figure out how to. We did, so if you can see, it's right now sorting based on urgency. If I add some item, I don't know, chips, kind of soon. It's in the list. What? Grapes, kind of soon. So we should see grapes in our kind of soon list. Yeah, that's about it. We added some styling, like for soon, kind of soon, not soon, for the users, so they know the time frame, because it's not clear what the soon mean, what kind of soon, not soon. Yeah, that's all that we did last
Very
week.
nice. Nice. The icons that you're using, are those, what kind of icons are they? Are they like images, or are you using some kind of library to?
The images,
Gotcha.
yeah,
Gotcha.
I downloaded
Nice.
some Figma and the images.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
where is the home? And that home button. Where is the layout? Yeah, here.
gotcha.
For them.
Nice. I like too that you added some labels for clarity about like what does soon mean. I feel like that is that could be pretty unclear if you didn't add those
Yeah, and also
that stuff.
added some area labels for buttons. And,
Nice. I was also going to ask that. Yeah.
yeah.
Nice. So you are adding some accessibility
Yeah.
considerations there.
Yeah.
Nice. Did anyone else have any questions or comments? Was Mira, were you going to talk through the code then?
Okay. But Nuria needs to share.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay. What file do you want me to share, Mira?
I think it's in the list and the sublist, isn't it?
Sublist and Firebase. Yeah, this is the sublist.
And what about the list where we're past?
Sublist.
Yeah, we're calling a component sublist and passing the search query list token and the items here. And then in the sublist component, yeah, here we are considering the keys and the values separately for the items that we passed in, and then displaying the title. If it is not, if the length is equal to 0, then don't display, otherwise display the title. And then we go through with the same thing as if it is greater than, like, if it is not 0, then we display the urgency array and filter it up so that the list items is filtered by the urgency.
Yeah, and we
We just made an array of everything and pushed it. I think this is last week.
we created like hard coded basically, but we're open for suggestion to make it maybe smart way, more efficient. Hard coded arrays
Yeah,
based on urgency.
we tried to incorporate like in a different way, but every time it was either like displaying the whole thing, or it didn't work the way we wanted it to without changing too much code. So this is the way we could do it for now. We would like to see if anyone has any suggestions so that we could do it in a cleaner way.
Yeah, I'm happy to take a look, take a look into the code, but I think this works. I think the solution is also it does
Yes,
the job.
it
Yeah.
it does the job, but we also when we sort our items, for example, for chips, like we want just not to show the kind of some purchased, the titles. That's our issue.
And
Gotcha.
also
Okay.
something with the overdue.
Yeah.
Sometimes it shows, sometimes it's not showing. And when you see under the soon, there is also that not soon. So it's, somewhere there is some manipulation going on, and without changing too much code, we couldn't achieve that.
Yeah, we have a bug in our date next purchase and urgency, like item urgency. Some have a bug. We need a little support on that.
Gotcha. Yeah, we can definitely look into that this week. See how to fix that. But yeah, nice. Were there other questions either that Mira and Nuria that you had for the group, or did anyone have any questions or comments for the pair?
If I can say something, I'm borderline impressed because we had a call yesterday, like in the afternoon on Friday, right, where we discussed some possible changes, and I cautioned them, making changes last minute when you have to present in the morning may not be a good idea. But I'm very impressed to see how they came together and get it done. So wow, kudos to you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did last night. It was, for me, for EST, it was late. It was like 9-10 p.m.-ish. And Patrick was after work, tired. But
Yeah.
it's,
I also am impressed with your dedication. Like you said, like Pat's been working on the designs, and for him to join in after work and for you guys to stay up late and cram in the work. You all have shown a lot of dedication to getting this project done. So yeah, nice job. Very impressed with the progress you all made this week. All right. Any other final questions or comments before we move over to a learning module with Volha? All right, Volha, take it away.
All right, let's get started. All right, fantastic. So accessibility. Today, we're going to talk about a very important topic, and I hope that it will help you to think about different ways people access the websites and about different possibilities, how you can make it easier and more inclusive for everyone. So some of you may have seen this hashtag ally, but it's actually a curious thing. Those L's in the middle, they are not L's, they're number 11. So there are 11 characters between A and Y in accessibility. So hence where the hashtag comes from. All right, so what is accessibility? Web accessibility is an inclusive practice of ensuring that there are no barriers that prevent interaction with or access to the websites for people with physical disabilities, situational disabilities, and even socioeconomic restrictions like a bandwidth or speed of your internet. When the websites are correctly designed, developed, and edited, generally all users should have equal access to the information and functionality. So the W3C has actually a group dedicated to web accessibility, and they work on outlining some of the best practices and publishing the standards on how you and other developers can make your websites accessible. Additionally, in the United States, there is a regulation, Section 508, that requires government agencies to make websites accessible for the people with different abilities. So what are different ways that people can access the websites? So some people access websites using assistive technologies, and this could include screen readers, screen magnifiers, speech input, assistive keyboards, and Braille displays. Some of the Braille displays are very cool as they literally create in Braille as the person scrolls through the text on your website. And I think it's like many of those tools are very fantastic and make the process easier for the people. Also, there are a few screen readers that are popular. So for the Windows, it's NVDA and JAWS. And for Mac, the most common is VoiceOver, which is already built in Mac OS. And here I want to give you a word of caution because sometimes developers write code on their machine, right, which could be Windows or Mac. And sometimes, like when you test your code, you tested it on Mac OS with VoiceOver and it works. So it's easy to assume that it would work the same on Windows for NVDA and JAWS, but that may not be the case. So it would be really important to test the code and test the accessibility on other devices as well to ensure that the process is smooth for everyone. All right, so why do we care about accessibility? Well, first of all, it's the right thing to do, duh, to provide equitable access to the information. Also, like some government agencies and in some countries, you may be legally obligated to make your website accessible. And also, when you think about the amount of people who need a need websites to be accessible, the amount of people is not that small. So it is estimated that in United States, the amount of people who use assistive technology is more than amount of people living in Canada. So just to give you a perspective, it's a huge number. And also, when people think about different people with different abilities, many people don't consider situational disabilities, like something that may happen to anyone at certain point of life, depending on their situation. I'll show more in a different slide what I'm talking about. And of course, making pages more accessible allows more people to interact with your website. It increases your traffic and creates an equal opportunities for everyone. Wouldn't you like to do that? All right, awesome. So here's what I was talking about, what some people don't consider. There are multiple types of there is a different spectrum of people who need assistive technologies. So for example, let's consider the touch, right? So there could be multiple cases. A person who was born with one arm, which is a permanent condition when they require to use your websites just using with one arm or some assistive technology, right? It also could be temporary. Think about a person who broke their arm. So they are generally able to access your websites with both hands, but due to the temporary condition, they need to use just one hand, and they may not be as adaptive to do so because they've never done it before. So it's a learning curve for them. And also there could be a situational case, like for example, you are a new parent that needs to carry a child and you temporarily need to be able to do something just with one arm because that's the situation you are in. And it goes the same way for different spectrums. So it could be the same for your sight, for your hearing, and also for speaking, right? And it's important to consider different cases to make sure that we make the process of using your website as easy as possible for everyone. All right, so what are some of the practices that you could use to ensure that the websites you build are accessible? First of all, when possible, it is very important to use the semantic HTML. So semantic HTML is essentially using the tags in your HTML that are meaningful, right? Also, another way would be to include alt attributes on your image tags if they are important. So if the image is just a background that you think is not loading any meaning, it's okay to skip them over so the readers won't even see them, right? But if it's something that adds meaning and it is essential to your website, it's important to use alternative tags that are more descriptive than just an image, right? Like it would be better to use an image of a happy puppy playing on the grass, right? Additionally, you can use the area attributes, but be careful about not overusing them. So there is a quote here, right? The best area is not area at all. It is better to use semantic HTML when possible, but if there are no alternatives, it's good to use. Also, when you write your code, ensure all content is reachable via keyboard, and you can just, test it by clicking tabs and see where in your site the tab goes to. And the next bullet point kind of adds to it. So we do style our components with CSS, which is fantastic. However, for people who use assistive technologies, they not always able to see the styling, and sometimes they see the website the way HTML was written, right? So in order of your elements, because they use different tools to get it. So it's important to see that the ordering makes sense. For example, if you're designing a website that has a shopping cart in it, right? Like it's important that your confirmation of the order would be somewhere towards the top of the page, like after you confirmed all your shipping details and everything, and not in the real very bottom after all the legal agreements and everything. So the person doesn't have to tap 100 times before they get there. Some other things to consider is to use the appropriate color contrast and color schemes. And another thing to think about is not to use color as the only indication of if something went wrong. For example, for the error message, right? Displaying an error message only in red colors and have it the only way of identifying that it's an error may not be the best way, because some people may not see the difference in a color. And if possible, it's always a good option to use multiple ways of indicating if something didn't go just the way it's planned. All right, awesome. So there are some useful tools and technologies that could help you to evaluate your code. I know it could be a challenging topic to think about, like, oh, but like I want to make my code accessible, but my website's accessible, but where do I start? So don't worry, I'll be sharing this deck with you, and also in the end of the presentation has a lot of valuable tools. And some of them are automated, that could be a part of your CI/CD pipeline, right? Some of them like X, and it's not perfect. It only covers around 30% of the issues, but 30% is better than nothing, right? So there are multiple layers on how you can make your code more accessible. You can also follow the guided audits, which are built in some of the tools like Accessibility Insights. And another way of doing it's like next level is using the companies that actually have accessibility testers. So it's a real person who would be going through the websites and checking if it matches some of the standards and pointing out some things that could be improved. So not every company is willing to invest in that, but if your company does, it doesn't hurt. Like, I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask if your company does, because this is the best way to ensure that your website is accessible and available and provide the equal experience to everyone. All right, so I'll show you one of the extensions. Since everyone is talking about Twitter and Elon Musk, I decided to use Tesla website as an example. And let me just, sorry, move the window. Okay, perfect. So the application I'm referring to is Accessibility Insights, right? And it has multiple layers on how you can evaluate your websites. So the first option is a fast pass, when it's just going to do an automatic evaluation of the website and point you to what issues it may have. So let's see. All right, so let me just move it side by side so it would be easier for you to see. All right, so you see how it highlights the issues on the initial page that you selected, right? And you can see what kind of issues are there, right? Some of them are area text issues. Some of them are color contrast, and it helps you navigate on your website to the place where exactly it's happening, right? And it shows what the issue is. For example, here, the color for the background and the color for the text are very similar and could be hard to read. Like, for example, here, right? This is where it switches, but when the window is active, you can see it okay, the contrast is okay, but when it's inactive, you can see that it's kind of hard to read, right? And you can go through each of them and evaluate how you can fix that. And you can go into more details on where each element is and fix it as you go. So there's also another level. You can use an assessment. And inside their assessment, it has different fields. So you can do the automatic checks that we just went. You can see how it would feel like of going through your website just with a keyboard, and you can select to view how you click through tabs through your website. And there are other fields that you can evaluate and go through and see, like if they make sense and if you're covering all the ground for the accessibility. So there are other extensions like that. There's more tools, but this one is very easy, and it's a Chrome extension, so it's available. It's moderately lightweight, so it's a good tool to add to your toolbox to do a little to help make your websites accessible for everyone. And additionally, there are some other resources that I will be sharing with you. And that's what I have about this presentation. Let me know if you have any questions or any comments, or let me know if you worked on accessibility before, and what are your thoughts on the topic? Have you heard of it before? Is it something that you consider when you design your applications? What some of the challenges that you had? Please share. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
So I've never gone really in depth on accessibility. I know it's a huge thing that everybody should, but I think the presentation was actually really enlightening on everything. It was I don't know, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I have done a little bit of accessibility earlier, but this was a tool I never knew, and it helps tremendously. And thank you for that. This was just a great presentation overall.
Yeah, thank you. It's very informational, educational, that we have to consider for sure, because we want to make our website accessible to everyone and useful.
Yeah, I really love the visualization, the Microsoft inclusive design visualization of what different types of disability can look like, because I think before I had seen that visualization, I didn't realize, I didn't quite understand what was meant by temporary or situational disability, but we can all be affected. Some of my favorite examples of situational are if you have a smartphone, and you're in really strong sunlight and you can't see what's on your phone, but you need to turn up the contrast, that's an accessibility issue. Or even if you're on the subway and you can't play audio, it's an accessibility issue. You need to have subtitles on videos. Those are things that we all benefit from, that were initially designed as an accessibility issue, but it really is an everyone issue. So yeah, that was awesome presentation, Volha.
Yeah, it was really good.
All right. Did anyone else have any questions or comments about accessibility? Okay. I guess, George, do you want to kind of guide us through what folks are going to be working on this week, or guide us through the discussion about that?
Yeah. There was a bit of a question between us about how we want to go about doing that, and I think seeing some of the designs that you all made makes that a little clearer. So I guess the first question that I really have is how far into that process have you gotten, and have you gotten to the point where you've kind of meted out? Have you I guess my question is, have you created the tasks that are needed to get to that design, and have you started to kind of meet those out to different people? And that's for everybody. I'm just not sure where y'all are. So
yeah, so last week we were mostly focused on just getting the categories sorted on the list, and we made a few issues on that. I think it still needs to be kind of polished, but design wise we haven't done that yet, but it's totally something we could do. I think it's probably going to be more a team effort rather than handing out the issues to groups. but we can do some issues to groups, but I think in general, like the functionality will kind of be a team effort. And then I think the design, like actually implementing it, won't be such a challenge.
Okay, that's fine. So what do we think is a good way to kind of proceed and figure out how we can figure out a plan to get this done? Because because you only have a week to do it. Like you don't have to do everything that you absolutely need to do. As long as the functionality of the website is working, then that's all we really need. The design is just kind of not, I don't want to say extra because the design is important, but like it's not as important as like making sure it actually works. So I guess that kind of the question, like how do we want to proceed? Because next week the pairs are Mira and Caitlin and Maria and Patrick. And it kind of sounds like everybody's in consensus about this being more of a communal effort than just, meeting out like tasks for everybody, which I'm totally in favor for. So yeah, I guess my question is like, how do we want to proceed? I'll leave that to,
I'll just jumping in. I did see, Pat, that you had created some issues this week, which I think is a really helpful way of kind of visualizing like those tasks that need to be done. Do you want to kind of talk to us about which ones, like, are those pending issues? Like, what do we need to create some more issues to divide up the work? I think is a little bit of what George was getting at.
Yeah. Let me see the issues. Kind of forgot what they were, but I just did those because those were like the three things that came up last night when we were working. Like we need to figure out the categories by urgency. We need to figure out the date issues we're going, like the date logic that's going on, and we need to make sure the filter works even with this new category list. Those are like the three functionality things that need to be done so we have like a fully functional app. And the design utilizes the categories on the list page, so that also needs to be done.
okay.
So how can we as mentors set you up for success? How can we help you? What can we do for you?
We really need help with figure out date logic, because we got lost and it's too complicated for us and very time consuming. And yeah, and filtering and sorting we figure out, but we want to hear if there are any alternatives to do it more efficient, better ways, because we're entry levels and want to hear opinions on the mentors. Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, it sounds to me like there's a decent amount of functionality stuff still left to do. So can we add these to the project and start to figure out what the acceptability criteria for these are? For the issues that you made, Patrick, I mean.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'll definitely go like deeper on them. Make sure everything's better in that aspect.
Yeah, one sec. I'm just going through these real quick and just adding them to the project so that they show up in the project board.
Also, is GitHub up to date? Can we pull some of the branches to take a look at the issues that you're having?
Yes, we have a like playground branch that name is unusual name. Where is my can say it's filter item urgency name for the branch. That's our branch up to date that we worked on it last night. Yeah.
It might be helpful. I know you're saying that it's a playground branch, and Volha and George, if you have other thoughts, feel free to disagree with me, but it might be helpful to create even just a draft PR of that branch so that we can have some like back and forth discussion on
Yep.
specific lines of code. And if we don't end up actually merging that PR, I think it's fine, but I think that might be a helpful way of organizing some of the conversation. So maybe Nuria or Mira, if you just want to, do you know how to create a draft PR? You can also just create it as a PR and we can decline it later, but
Never done draft PR, but I
okay,
can try.
you can try. Would you like me to share my screen and show you like where to find that?
Yeah.
Okay, let me just show you. Okay, so if you are going, you said it was this
Yeah.
branch. And then if you want to create a PR for it, oh, there we go. So we're going to open pull request. And all you need to do is there's a drop down here, create pull request, and you can just create it as a draft instead. And that is, we all know, we're all on this call, so we all know, but sometimes if you're working on a team, that's a way of communicating to them that like, this is a work in progress. This is still a draft. It's kind of an easy way. And I think if you create it as a draft, it's not even going to let you, it's not going to give you the option to merge it until you have published the PR. So that can be a helpful way of differentiating. But like I said, if you can't figure out like, I don't know if your UI looks different than mine or whatever, if you can't find that button, you can just create it as a draft or as a regular pull request, and then just we'll make sure we have comments on there that we're not merging this one. But yeah, I think that might be a good place for us all to kind of make sure, like, you know, we can comment on specific lines of code and like, okay, this is a place to do, you know, whatever, this is how to optimize it better. And you can, in the body of the pull request, you can also ask some of those questions that you're asking us, like, you know, these are some of our questions. This is what we want to optimize better. You can comment on specific lines of code and we can start, that can be a helpful place for us to start having that conversation.
Yeah, I know it is kind of messy branch because in one branch we tried to figure out like 3 issues, but this branch was created of the another branch that never get merged yet. So
Yeah, that's
maybe
totally fine.
Maybe we should create like 2 or 3 different branches for issues so it won't get crumbled.
Oh, yeah, in general, that is.
For date, because I know it's complex logic, and we want to try also add some sorting conversation. It can get messy.
Yeah, in general, I definitely agree. It's good to kind of like keep the scope of a PR like kind of tight so that exactly like you're saying, like it's easy to review if you understand the context, and also, you know, if you have multiple issues, it's easier to organize the conversation that way. So if you're able to do that, I think that's a good instinct.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it sounds like like George was saying, there's some functionality that we want to wrap up this week. And it sounds like having the mentors kind of look over that code will be helpful. So I guess on that front, the first step would be creating those draft PRs so that we can start having discussion asynchronously. And then if we need to have sync conversations, I think George is hosting office hours this week.
Yeah.
But I'm also happy to jump on a call if outside of that time, if folks need. So first we'll do those draft PRs on that front. On the design front, what is kind of the game plan there to wrap up that work? Like, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
I think I'm just gonna start doing like the home and the add item and leave the list item for later, because once we need to get that figured out. But yeah, that should be earlier this week, like tomorrow or Monday.
Yeah. I would also like caution, don't like, let's not try to stretch ourselves a little too thin, because we do still have that functionality that needs to be that critical functionality that needs to be figured out. I would probably say the design is probably more secondary, and also like we're going into a holiday week, so realistically, not tomorrow, Monday and Tuesday are probably the only days where you're gonna have time to do that, do this kind of stuff, and possibly this weekend, unless you already have plans. So I would probably just caution, maybe just do some of the basic stuff. If you have more time, go for it. But if you're constrained, then don't worry about it. No big deal.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Make sure that you're setting realistic expectations for yourself. We want to make sure we have an MVP this weekend to demo, but I will also just say, like, you all own this project. If you all want to continue working on it and improving it beyond the scope of this cohort, like, you're totally able to do that. So just to put that out there, like, this is your project, because we've had questions about that in the past from Collabbies, like, it's yours to do with whatever you like. But we want it to be in a good place to demo this weekend. But yeah, I think George makes a good point that, like, we want to make sure it works. Like, if it's beautiful and it doesn't work, like, that's not great. It's okay if it's not, the most stunning thing ever. We just want to make sure that the functionality is there, because that's where what you all have been working so hard on for most of this time, and we want to make sure that you have something to show for that. So
yeah, it's you guys have been killing it like every single week, so we want to make sure that we have something that's functional working, so that you feel like you really got something done. So cool. Yeah, I'm not sure how I want to proceed. So, like, do we want someone specific to own setting up like those draft PRs, so that we're not confused on who's doing it?
I will set up the draft PRs and create 3 branches for the 3 main issues, which is like date logic, sorting logic, and filtering logic.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Patrick, you said you got to take a look at some of the design stuff in the next couple of days. So yeah, great. So yeah, we'll create that and we'll dive into some of them. We'll myself, Caitlin, and Bo will get a chance at some point to dive into some of the code that's being a little annoying and stingy. So we'll try to figure that out. Good plan. Anybody comments, questions?
Sounds good. Thanks, George.
Cool.
All right, so we'll leave you to it. Just want to confirm, as George pointed out, in the US, this is a holiday week. Does anyone have is everyone going to be able to attend next Saturday's sync call? Will anyone have problem being there? Just want to make sure, since, like, this is your final demo. Andrew Hedges is planning on joining to see the demos too. So just want to make sure everyone's going to be able to be there and, speak to the code, and this is kind of your time to show off what you've been doing. So cool. All right, if everyone is good, then I guess we can break. We will be looking out for those draft PRs so that we can kind of help give some input there. But yeah, otherwise, good luck this week. Excited to see what you're able to accomplish.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
you.
Great
Have a
job,
great
y'all.
Cool.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.